What's up, Internet? This is the too long didn't read for my new book, Uncertainty, How the Latest Science and Technology Confirm the Bible is True. This story is called Our Thoughts Physically Rewire Our Brains. The virtual reality of reality that we all experience every day needs raw data from the universe to look as similar as possible from moment to moment to produce the highest quality story in our heads, the story with the most coherence. Coherence is so important to our brains that our subconscious minds will contort our bodies into all kinds of crazy ways to keep our eyes level and steady throughout the day. Your eyes are probably level right now regardless of whatever position your body is in. Here's a couple of examples. Here's a cheetah running at high speed. Just watch this bird keep its eyes level no matter where its body moves. Our subconscious minds work that hard all day to help us build a coherent story in our heads. It not only influences our bodies to work that hard, it also means our imaginations are working that hard. In the previous story, we learned how 99.7% of every pixel we see every day is imagined. So imagination is the most important tool we have for building a coherent story in our heads. Imagination is generative AI that we can't turn off. Imagination is both the best thing that ever happened to us and it's the worst. It's the worst because we lie to ourselves every day without really knowing it. And my favorite example of this is the golden ratio. And you can pause if you want to read this example. The golden ratio strongly affects our interpretation of reality, but what about our beliefs? My favorite explanation for how our brains see what they believe comes from psychologist Gary Klein. He published his research in this book, Seeing What Others Don't, The Remarkable Ways We Gain Insights. Klein describes the mind as a collection of beliefs that combine in various ways to create stories. For example, let's use the simple statement, the sky is blue. That's a story. You have beliefs from your past related to the word sky, you have beliefs from your past related to the word blue, and you even have beliefs from your past related to the word is. When you combine these beliefs into the story, the sky is blue, your neural network automatically calculates a statistical confidence interval for the entire story. If I told you the sky is blue at night, your confidence would be very different than if I told you that same story during the day. You don't have to consciously calculate doubt, you feel doubt. That's how integral doubt is to our lives. What I like about this collection of beliefs idea is that it dovetails nicely with our neurobiology. The axonal connections between our neurons carry a signal strength for how strongly the ideas should be connected because human brains are large language models just like ChatGPT. The point of all the examples in Klein's book is that our neural networks generate real patterns of physical electricity that change with each thought. Computer scientists have trained digital neural networks to watch the electrical patterns in our quantum neural networks to guess what we are seeing and hearing in the real world. Now, these algorithms are way smarter than just guessing if we are thinking about the word sky. These algorithms can look at the electrical patterns in our neural networks and reconstruct what our eyes are seeing. Yeah. Here's an example called From Brainwaves. This AI can sketch what you're picturing. Here's a nerdier example called Can AI and fMRI hear unspoken thoughts? Yes, it can. And if you really want to nerd out, here's hyperrealistic neural decoding for reconstructing faces from fMRI activations via the GAN latent space. At legislators, the more our computers know about us, the easier we are to manipulate. The accuracy of these predictions will continue to improve from the resolution of our brain scanners and the sophistication of our artificial intelligence. So algorithmic liability laws are sorely needed, and hopefully mental privacy laws will follow because World War III is an influence war. Here's a little more about this tech from my friend Azeem Azhar. In his book, Seeing What Others Don't, Gary Klein calls the patterns of belief that we use most often intuition. These patterns get worn in, which allows our decision making to get faster and more instinctual. Whenever a neuron routes traffic in our neural networks, cells called oligodendrocytes wrap that neuron's axon in a myelin sheath to insulate its electrical signals. Basically, our neural networks physically install broadband cable along those routes. This insulation increases the strength of those connections, which increases the likelihood of seeing patterns with that neuron in the future. So our brains perpetually rewire themselves to increase the confidence in our existing beliefs. So there's a very valid biological reason why it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Our brains employ adaptive hardware. You can pause if you want to read this example of the Winklevoss twins. At Christians, while we're talking about changing weights and neural networks, let's look at the phrase glorify the Lord in a new way. In English translations of the New Testament, the word glorify is used to replace the Greek word doxazo about 85% of the time. Doxazo means exercising personal opinion to determine a value, like calculating a price. And before paper money, that meant adding weight to a scale. In the Old Testament, the word glorify replaces the ancient Hebrew word kabod, which also means to add weight. So glorify the Lord doesn't mean you need to be Jesus freaks out in the street handing tickets out for God. Glorify the Lord literally means make God heavy in your heart, make God heavy in your soul, and make God heavy in your mind. If you want to continue reading, up next is Partly Cloudy Brainstorms. In that story, we discuss reinforcement learning and the chemical molecules our brains use for rewards. We learn how these molecules lead us into addiction and why periodic fasting is so important for maintaining a healthy brain. At Christians, we really need your support. Fundamental Frequency is a 501c3 nonprofit ministry dedicated to spreading the good news of Jesus to academics, scholars, and scientists because of their tremendous influence on all our worldviews. Their opinions directly affect our children's education, the media, national policy, and budgets for future scientific research. So please consider investing some of your tithe this year into our mission of eradicating the false doctrine of Darwinian evolution. You can donate in just one click using this QR code, and all your gifts are tax deductible. You can also help us by sharing this story with your friends on TikTok, Twitter, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, WeChat, Weibo, and Qzone. See you next time.